The town of Kettering Hollow died in whispers. By the third night, more than half its homes stood empty, doors yawning open, windows shattered inward, trails of dark, sticky footprints leading from beds to the woods. No one saw who or what took them. Sometimes the lights flickered just before. Sometimes the screams came so suddenly the neighbors barely had time to glance outside. And sometimes, there were no screams at all. Just silence. And the wind sighing through the pines. The ones who remained, those too terrified or too stubborn to flee, boarded up their houses. They nailed crosses to doors, burned sage, clutched relics in shaking hands. But deep down, they knew it wouldn't stop what was coming. The thing they feared wasn't outside anymore. It was already among them. And it wore the face of a 16-year-old girl with white, hollow eyes. In the ruins of St. Mercy's Hospital, Evelyn Cross stood alone. The building had been abandoned after the massacre. Corpses littered the hallways, twisted into unnatural shapes, faces stretched in permanent rictus grins, skin peeled back in thin, wet sheets as though something inside them had tried to crawl out. But Evelyn remained untouched. She moved through the corridors in slow, unhurried steps, her bare feet leaving smears of dark ichor with every tread. Her eyes, milky and unseeing, stared ahead as if she saw something beneath the surface of the world. Something only she could perceive. Something that called to her. Down in the basement, where the walls sweated and the pipes groaned with old rust, she found it. A mirror. Or at least, something that looked like one. It was tall and thin, the glass blackened as though burned from within. Her reflection stared back at her, identical but wrong. The eyes were deeper. The mouth hung slightly too wide. The skin pulsed faintly, like the surface of a living thing. And then the reflection moved on its own. Her lips didn't move, but the thing inside the glass smiled wider. A voice, low, guttural, layered with inhuman resonance, spoke from nowhere and everywhere at once. The shell is ready. Evelyn's head tilted, her neck cracking sideways at an impossible angle. The voice pressed on, the door opens. The skin remembers. The body breaks. The mind is mine. And then, for the briefest second, her true self, the real Evelyn, flickered across her face. Her eyes widened. Her mouth trembled. "Help me," she croaked, barely audible, barely human. But then the thing beneath her skin surged forward again, drowning her in cold, suffocating silence. In the center of the mirror, something rippled. A hand. Long bone white. Wet and slick as raw meat, tipped with claws that shimmered like polished bone. And behind it, just visible, the hint of a second face pressed against the glass. Featureless. Smiling. Meanwhile, outside the hospital, the town burned. The first fires began near the gas station on the east end. Witnesses, what few remained, reported figures walking calmly into the flames, their bodies catching fire without resistance, still smiling even as flesh blackened and cracked. Sheriff's deputies responded. Only one made it back. Deputy Carla Voss ran into the church, her hair singed, her uniform soaked in blood. Her eyes were wide, lips trembling as she clutched Father Merton's arm and sobbed, "They don't die. We shot them." They kept smiling. "They're wearing the faces of people I know." Her hands were shredded, torn down to the tendons, as if she tried to rip something off her own skin. She didn't last the night. By sunrise, only 20 people remained in Kettering Hollow. And somewhere deep in the woods, the cave breathed. That morning, a small group gathered in the burned shell of the church: Father Merton, David and Laura Cross, 3 police officers, and Elias, Evelyn's younger brother. Pale, silent, and shaking. The priest laid out his plan with grim precision. "This is not possession," he said softly. "This is not demonic. It's something older. Something alien to our understanding of God and devil alike." He spread ancient pages across the table, fragments of old local folklore, whispers of the Hollow Ones and the Skinless Men, tales that had once been dismissed as frontier myths. It all pointed to one place. The cave. "We end this," Father Merton said, voice low but steady. "We seal whatever has been opened, before it spreads beyond the hollow." No one argued. They were all too afraid. They left at noon. The woods greeted them like an open throat. The deeper they walked, the more reality seemed to warp. Shadows moved on their own. Trees shifted when no wind blew. The ground, soft and wet as open flesh, slurped beneath their boots. Once, they passed what looked like a deer, standing motionless. But when they looked closer, they saw that its eyes were human, its legs bent wrong, and its mouth was sewn shut with long, black threads. Elias wept silently. By the time they reached the cave, the world had darkened to twilight, though it was barely afternoon. The cave's mouth gaped wider than before. Something pulsed inside, visible only as a ripple in the air, like heat rising from blacktop. And standing before the entrance was Evelyn. Or the thing that wore her. Her face was ruined. The skin sloughed in thick, wet ribbons, hanging from her cheeks like strips of meat. Her eyes glowed faintly now, no longer just white, but pale and luminous, casting faint beams into the gloom. She smiled. Her jaw dislocated with a sickening pop, distending too wide to be human. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice a chorus of wrongness. David stepped forward. "Evelyn," he rasped. His eyes were already filling with tears. "Please. Come home. We can help you," she twitched. Something moved under her skin, crawling in slow loops, bulging her flesh from within. Her hands cracked backwards, bones realigning as extra fingers butted and split from her knuckles. Her grin widened. "You can't help what's already dead," she whispered. Then she lifted her arms. The forest came alive. From the trees, they emerged, dozens of them. Men. Women. Children. Faces familiar but empty, their eyes sheer blank white, their jaws hanging slack. Some were rotting, strips of blackened flesh sloughing from their bones. Others looked pristine, fresh, new, but something in their gait betrayed them. Too smooth. Too perfect. As though their bodies were being piloted. Father Merton raised his crucifix. "Stay back," he roared. "In the name of," but before he could finish, one of the white-eyed things lunged. It moved too fast. Inhumanly fast. Its jaw split sideways, tendons snapping, before it buried its hands into the priest's chest. Fingers pierced through cloth, then bone, with an audible wet crack. Blood sprayed in a wide arc. Father Merton's scream was short. Chaos erupted. Laura Cross screamed as one of the creatures seized her by the hair, slamming her face first into a tree trunk with a crack that sent teeth flying. David tackled the attacker, pistol blazing, but bullets punched through the thing's flesh with no effect. It turned to him with that same dead-eyed smile. And then it peeled its own face off. The skin slid away like old leather, revealing something slick, black, and faceless beneath, something that clicked and buzzed, tendrils unfurling from its maw. David's own scream choked off as the thing surged forward. Elias ran. The boy fled into the trees, lungs burning, eyes wild with terror. Behind him, the sounds of slaughter rang through the woods, bones snapping, flesh tearing, wet gurgles. The shrieks of the dying. And over it all, laughter. High-pitched. Childlike. Evelyn's laughter. He stumbled, fell. As he pushed himself up, he saw her. Evelyn. The real one. Just for a moment. Standing among the trees. Her face soft. Her hair falling over one eye. Tears ran from her cheeks. Her mouth moved soundlessly. "Elias," she mouthed. "Run." And then her face twisted, contorting into something monstrous, her eyes rolling back as the creature surfaced once more. He ran harder. When he finally collapsed, breathless, at the edge of the river, the town of Kettering Hollow behind him had gone silent. No birds. No wind. No screams. Just the sound of the water lapping at the rocks, and the pulse of something immense and living deep beneath the ground. And in the distance, carried on the breeze, he heard his sister's voice. Soft. Sing-song. Skin for skin. Blood for blood. The hollow rises. He was the last one left. And the cave was still open. The sky over Kettering Hollow bled. It wasn't night. It wasn't day. It was something between, something wrong. The clouds churned in bruised purples and sickly yellows, casting the world beneath in a perpetual dusk where shadows moved even when nothing else did. And from the heart of the forest, the cave exhaled. The pulse, that hideous, rhythmic throb of something ancient, alive, and vast. Shivered through the soil, rattled the bones of the trees, sent small animals into frenzied death spirals. The hollow was waking. And Evelyn Cross was its herald. Elias ran until his lungs burned. His vision blurred, black spots dancing before his eyes, but still he ran, because the sound behind him had not stopped. The laughter. The wet dragging of feet. The whispering of voices that were almost human but twisted just enough to make the air itch and the heart seize. When he finally collapsed beside the old riverbed, his hands were slick with dirt and tears. His breath came in ragged sobs. Somewhere, he heard his name. Soft. Sweet. Familiar. Elias, he forced himself to look. She was standing by the water. Evelyn. Her dress was stained with rot, the hem torn and trailing. Her skin sagged in places, folding unnaturally, as though something beneath was too large for the body she wore. Her eyes, those blank, glowing white pits, fixed on him with eerie stillness. She smiled. Her lips cracked. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. Her voice was three voices layered together, the girl she once was, the creature she'd become, and something far older that spoke through both. Elias choked back a scream. "Please," he gasped, backing away on scraped palms. "Evie, you," her head tilted. Bones cracked. Skin stretched. And then she moved. It wasn't walking. It wasn't human. One moment she was by the water, 20 feet away. And in the next she was crouched inches from his face, her movements too fast, too smooth, her bones flexing in ways no living creature should. A tendril of dark flesh, something wet and boneless, uncoiled from her shoulder, tasting the air. Elias screamed. And then something changed. For the briefest flicker of a heartbeat, the real Evelyn surfaced, her ruined face softening, her mouth trembling. Tears, real ones, pooled in her ghost-pale eyes. "Help me," she croaked. "Please. I can't. I can't stop it." Her body twitched, jerking violently, as if fighting something inside her skin. Her hands spasmed. One finger bent backwards with a wet pop. Blood dripped from her mouth. And then, her voice splintered, something deep beneath her ribs shifted, pushing upward. Her head snapped back. She shrieked, a sound that no human vocal cords could have made. A chorus of voices, low and guttural, roared through her lungs in one monstrous howl. Elias ran. Somehow, he didn't know how. He made it to the church. St. Mercy's was half burned, its roof caved in. Black soot covered the walls. But it was empty. No shadows. No whispers. No faces staring from the dark. He stumbled inside, slammed the heavy wooden doors, and collapsed against the altar, sobbing. Somewhere in the distance, the howling stopped. Time passed. Minutes? Hours? He couldn't tell. The candlelight flickered. The air stank of smoke and old blood. And then, the knock. Soft. Rhythmic. Deliberate. 3 knocks. Silence. 3 knocks again. Elias froze. He didn't want to look. But his eyes, of their own accord, turned toward the church doors. And through the cracks, between the wood, he saw them. White eyes. Glowing. Unblinking. Smiling. They were waiting. Somewhere, deep in the marrow of his bones, he understood, it wasn't about Evelyn anymore. It wasn't about the town. The thing in the cave, the hollow, had always been here. Always watching. Always hungry. And now, through her, it had found its voice. Her body was just the first skin. And soon it would wear the whole world. The doors shuddered. Hands, pale, bloodless, pressed against the glass. Some of them human. Some of them not. Fingers too long, joints bent in reverse, flesh split in weeping cracks. Mouths smiled through the gaps. Too many teeth. And then the doors burst inward. Elias screamed. The white-eyed things swarmed into the church. Walking, crawling, some slithering on bellies slick with black slime. But at the center of them all, calm, serene, stood Evelyn. Her body was breaking apart now, mid-transformation. Her skin hung in tatters. Her jaw had split entirely, unhinged and distended, revealing rows of teeth that weren't hers. Her arms twitched. Long black filaments uncoiled from her spine, tasting the air. She spoke. Not with words. Not with sound. But with something older. Deeper. The words vibrated inside Elias' teeth, his bones, his skull. A language of hunger. Of empty places. Of unbeing. And his vision, already dim, flickered. He saw them all. The dead. The hollowed. The broken things. Faces he knew. Friends. Teachers. Neighbors. All smiling. All wearing skin like costumes stretched too thin. And behind them, towering, vast, formless, he saw the true shape. The hollow. It was not a creature. It was a place. A mind. A mouth without a body. A hunger wearing the world like flesh. Something snapped in his mind. And then, without knowing why, he ran toward her. Toward Evelyn. Her eyes widened. For the briefest instant, just 1 second, he saw his sister again. Her true face. The thing inside her stuttered. Hesitated. And Elias, with tears streaming, grabbed her hand. "Evie," he whispered, sobbing. "Please, come back," the forest roared. The cave screamed. The white-eyed thing shrieked in fury. But for a moment. Just a heartbeat, everything froze. Evelyn's breath caught. Her mouth trembled. Her real voice, faint, fragile, broken, whispered, "I remember," and then the world exploded. A shockwave tore through the church. The floor buckled. The walls splintered. Bodies, human and otherwise, were hurled backwards in shrieking, flailing arcs. Elias and Evelyn were at the center of it all. Her eyes, still white, now glowed with gold. Her mouth, still split, began to close. The thing inside her screamed. Not with her voice, but with its own, a sound that boiled blood, split eardrums, cracked glass. But it was losing. The real Evelyn was winning. And then, just before he blacked out, Elias heard one last whisper in the dark, "The door won't close. Not yet. Not ever." And the cave kept breathing.